Satana got her first uniform and a massive rework at that, becoming a viable support in addition to being a fire damage leadership. But that's not all, because she has these absolutely gorgeous animations which make her very tempting to play. I will put it that way. Now, she's not going to break the bank damage-wise, and of course, not being able to go to tier 4, not being able to go to level 80 even, are certainly going to limit your possibilities with her. But still, again, some of the most gorgeous animations you've ever seen. Tons of holy light, massive swords, holy flames, wings. You know, she really fills that fantasy aesthetic perfectly, that high fantasy aesthetic, which is actually really rare for this game. So I have to give the devs points and kudos for that. It certainly is nothing you've ever seen before, right? Definitely checks that box of being something you have never ever seen before. And you know what? There's some utility. She's got a lot of movement speed. Now, the base rotation we're doing is just 4-3 with a slight delay into 5. Now, as you can see, it's not a lot of burst damage. It's a lot of wind-up damage. So you do need to make sure that your target stays put, or that you sort of position them into the position that you want them in. I mentioned positioning because her 5th skill has a V-pad, and that is the skill that you're going to end your rotations on. So it's very nice if you happen to be in, you know, a bad spot. You can reposition to a better spot. You can move away from poison clouds or tornadoes or what have you. You can run away from bosses and sort of do some different things. It's very nice, right? You guys know how much I love V-pad skills. They're just amazing. They're just amazing. So I will say that her V-pad is very slow moving. It's not fast and snappy and responsive like Black Bolt's. So be careful if you are relying on it to dodge. A lot of people forget. Oh, her V-pad's way too slow. That didn't work. I have a earlier clip where I just killed myself because I was trying to V-pad away from Null's attack, and it just didn't work. So yeah, we're gonna co-op here because we can just do that. Very nice. And this is going really smoothly. Now, of course, she's not going to be the highest damage dealer out there. Like I mentioned earlier, she's not going to compete with 80s and tier 4s for damage, but this is serviceable for a stage 55. She is primarily a lead and support, so you can consider this a triple support team, utilizing both Riri and Shuri, in addition to her own 70% fire damage lead, and then 35% fire damage support passive. That's a brand new passive that she gets with this uniform that allows her to be potentially as good or better. Well, maybe potentially as good or better. I'll say that than Ghost Panther. Yeah, I'll say it right now, because she does not provide the flexibility of Ghost Panther's buffs, but what she lacks in flexibility, she makes up for in raw elemental damage. Now, we didn't get our proc to land there because we got guard broken, which is unfortunate. I really thought the Awakening skill gave us invincibility, but I don't know if I got cleansed or something. It's kind of weird. But yeah, she gets, as you can see, she still gets it done. And most of all, I gotta say, the skills, man. The skills. They're just gorgeous. There's flames everywhere. There's holy swords. It's just so good, man. It's so good. I'm honestly tempted to just stack her and build her as just a damage dealer for any time I want to do fun content, anytime I just want to zone out and do like stage 1 of Black Swan or whatever, because she just has absolutely gorgeous animations. Also, a lot of people forget that she's actually kind of flexible for world boss requirements. Now, you know, female hero universal is not that high on the list, but she's also human. I think a lot of people forget. They thought she was, you know, alien or other or something like that. She's human. So she does actually fit in a lot of groups, fits in a lot of categories that Luna fits in and others. Her abilities are not that useful with flame and magic, but I believe... No, magic is not one of... I thought magic was one of the... Or it might be one of the dispatch ones. But the magic tag means that she can use Wong's buff. So she's actually very flexible in that regard. She can take advantage of a lot of different buffs from different types of characters. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, magic allies. Yeah, cool. Doesn't really have PvP value whatsoever, but, you know, in the lead/support department, she is one of the best now for elemental damage characters, particularly fire damage elemental types. So for fire types, she gives a 70% buff, plus the uniform adding an additional 35%. Now, you're thinking to yourself, well, that's great, Alex, but what if I'm not dealing fire damage? That's okay. She can still give 35% because that's all elemental damage. Now, it's not as good as 105. It's a smaller number, of course, but it means she can still buff elemental types like Thor, like Odin, like Luna, right? All of these other elementals that are not dealing fire damage still get something from her. Not quite as good as Ancient One, but still pretty strong. To illustrate that, let's compare her buff versus Ghost Panthers for someone like Jean Grey. We're going Jean versus Jean here, stage 9, no pierce. We don't have any strikers, and we're just using the one support from either Satana or Ghost Panther. And the reason for this is we want to highlight just how much the buff is giving versus everything else. So we're going to do our best to play well here. We shouldn't die, but let's see. Oh, we did die. Okay, well, it's not going to take time off the clock, so that's okay. And we're basically just seeing how long it takes us to get through to the first cutscene that Jean does. So that's all we're aiming for, and seeing, you know, if one really outranks the other, because Ghost Panther is giving what, 80% fire damage, as well as 45% increased damage to villains, and then some other small buffs. And then Satana, of course, we know is all fire damage. So that was not bad. That was almost 45 seconds on the dot. Now let's see how we perform with Satana. We don't get the same start because Jean decides to iframe us at the beginning, but that's okay, because it maybe will pan out for us in the end. Let's go pop off the tier 3. Very nice. Crank out that damage there. Not die this time. And continue on our journey. Now we don't get the... Oh, we didn't get the tier 3. So we're gonna have to stall there. Not bad. Okay, zip through, zip around. Almost died. But as you can see, this is very, very close. It's almost exactly the same. Wow, it's almost exactly the same. So this really highlights the value of ramping and stacking elemental damage buffs, particularly for characters that don't have elemental damage buffs natively. Now, of course, this is only going to work for elemental damage characters, but if we go into the menu here, we can highlight this a little bit more carefully by actually taking a look at Jean. And we're just going to throw Wolverine in here because he's not going to provide any other buffs. So Jean Grey normally, right, if we take Satana out of the picture completely, Jean only has, for my cards and whatever, my build, she has actually, well, 61% fire damage. That's actually a lot. 61 is a lot of fire damage. I thought it was less than that, frankly. But yeah, she only has 61% fire damage. That's pretty good. No, you know, no exaggeration. It's pretty good. But then, when you introduce Satana into the mix, now you're talking about 166. So that's insane, right? That's absolutely insane. And considering that Ghost Panther provides 80% fire damage, that means the difference between Ghost Panther and Satana is only 25%. And yet, with Ghost Panther's other buff being 45%, the fire damage was almost equally powerful under the same circumstances. Because you see that 166 is going to drop to 140, 141 here because it's 25% less. But then Ghost Panther, right, instead of giving that extra 25% fire damage, he's giving 45% increased damage to villains. You would think that's better, a lot better. You would think it's like noticeably faster, but it's not. It's really not. The 25% fire damage is really that good. Again, particularly for characters who are under 100% elemental damage through buffs that they already have. And of course, my Jean doesn't have a judgment. Otherwise, she would ramp from 60 to 266. And then for sure, you would start to see a massive drop off. For characters that have judgment CTPs, you're not going to see as much of a benefit from stacking this much elemental damage with someone like Satana. But for characters like Luna, characters like Jean, other characters who just don't have access to a lot of elemental damage, this is absolutely nuts. So yeah, very cool uniform. I was actually surprised it kept up with Ghost Panther. I didn't expect it to. Gorgeous animations. I think this is one of the better, seasonal uniforms. I know it's seasonal. I know it costs real money, which is a bummer, but you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck here. You're getting an upgrade for a character who has never been upgraded before. You're also getting an upgrade that makes her useful in 3 categories, right? As a support, as a leadership, and as a standalone. And then you're getting some of the most gorgeous animations we've ever seen. some of the most unique animations we've ever seen, and cool idle animations with the flaming hands, and then of course all the you know, thigh, chest cutout sort of stuff for all the Coomers and shit. So yeah, I think this is a win. I think this is a win. Could it have been a bit stronger? Could it have been a bit better? Yeah, but I think this is certainly moving in the right direction, and much better than very conditional supports like last year's Squirrel Girl. That was terrible. Or even last year's Gwenpool, which wasn't strong enough. So yeah, I would say this is a strong consideration for a lot of players, especially if you want to specialize in dealing damage with fire damage characters like Jean. But yeah, hit me up in the comments down below and let me know what you think of Satana. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button. Helps with the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.